Madam Chairperson, my sister Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal, Prime Minister Stuart Richard Young, Senior Counsel, former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, and party chairman, ministers of government, our 41 winning candidates, those who are present here, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of Tunapuna and Trinidad and Tobago, good evening to you. Tonight I want to do some straight talk. So I ask you to listen to me, please. I am humbled at the amount of attention that has been focused on me on the media and on social media since my resignation from the United National Congress. And I believe because I am somewhat of a national figure, and I say that most humbly, I owe it to you to explain my actions. In saying that, however, to put context to everything that I'm going to say here tonight, I need to speak to you briefly about who I am. Some of you know who I am, but many of you do not. Many because of my apparent success make presumptions and assumptions about my background. I am an El Dorado boy. Who first lived in a humble home at number 263 Eastern Main Road, El Dorado. Esmond, you know that address? I attended the St. Charles Roman Catholic Preschool at Back Street, Tunapuna. Then the Tunapuna Hindu School, when it was located by the Siwala Temple just by Royal Castle on the Eastern Main Road. To get to school, I would walk to school down the Eastern Main Road from El Dorado, or take a PTSC bus or taxi, because in my pre-teen years, my parents often did not have a car. Even in those primary school days, I always dreamed of being a lawyer. I passed my common entrance for Queen's Royal College in Port of Spain, but transferred to Hillview College because of its closeness to my home. Through my PNM provided education, I was able to excel at both O-levels and A-levels and was able to gain entry at the Faculty of Law at UWI just down the road from here. In 1990, as I was about to enter the Faculty of Law, a very happy time for me to pursue my dream of becoming a lawyer. My father, unfortunately and sadly, committed suicide. Luckily, I had a hard-working mother who would get up at 1 to 2 a.m. every day to make roti and other food items to sell at the tuck shop at Hillview College, which she ran for 34 years. And through her efforts, my two siblings and I were afforded a decent life. After my first year at UWI, and Faris, I don't think he's here, he's supposed to come up this evening. Faris and I were classmates. After my first year at UWI, I had to go to Cave Hill, Barbados to further my studies. However, my mother would not have been able to afford to support me for the 2 years that I was required to study at the Faculty of Law at Cave Hill. But fortunately, through the PNM provided Through the PNM provided student revolving loan fund that then existed, I was able to secure a loan to pay for my studies at Cave Hill, Barbados, and at the Sir Hugh Wooding Law School, also just down the road from here, and go on to qualify as a lawyer. I have practiced law now for 29 years, and in the years 2006 to 2007, I served as a judge of our High Court on a temporary basis. I was then 35 years of age, and I believe I am the youngest person that was ever appointed in the history of our country to serve on our High Court bench. I have never, in my 29 years of the practice of law, had a complaint made against me before the disciplinary committee, have never had a client accuse me of financial impropriety in relation to money, have never had a judge accuse me of any misconduct or dishonesty in the practice of my profession. Since 1995, I have worked in just about every election for the United National Congress in Tunapuna, save for 2000 when I assisted in St. Augustine. That's when I come into you just now. I got involved in the politics of our country because I am of the firm belief in our collective potential as a country because of our beautiful diversity, our unique blend of culture, our geographic location, and our natural resources, just to name a few of our attributes. And I want the very best for our country. As I got involved in the UNC in the Pandey days, I believed in his philosophy that the best way to help most of our people with the country's limited resources is by giving them a hand up rather than a handout, providing opportunities for personal development and self-determination. So how did I end up here today? As some of you may know, who have been following me on social media or in the press, since 2015, after Mrs. Prasad Bissessar lost her first general election, I have been campaigning for change in the UNC, taking part in almost every internal election since then. In 2015, following the UNC's loss that year, I became concerned that the leader, Kamla Prasad Bissessar, was not positioning the party to make it a winner by doing what was necessary to attract and promote the best minds and persons with the best qualifications to represent the party and, by extension, our country. So I got involved in internal elections of the party, attempting with others to get control of the executive of the party so that we could influence the selection of candidates. In all our efforts, we did not succeed, largely because of Mrs. Prasad Bissessar's control of the election machinery in the party. At all times, though, I could not help but admire the PNM. In the way the party was organized and run, and the fact that it appeared at all times to go out of its way to attract and screen and put quality persons in our parliament. So after 2015, it became more and more apparent that Mrs. Prasad Bissessar was not really interested in winning elections, but rather was interested firstly in maintaining her position as opposition leader, judging by the poor candidates of questionable character and lack of genuine qualifications that she, through her absolute control over the party executive, was choosing for the party, particularly in its safe seats. It was so evident what she was doing that in the build-up to the 2020 general elections, Martin Daly, SC, wrote on July 12, 2020 in the Sunday Express that, quote, "Meanwhile, at the beginning of the week, the UNC announced its candidates. Looking at the list then, it seemed to me that it was a political insurance list packed with persons who might not be inclined to dump the leader of the opposition, Kamla Persad-Bissessar, if the UNC lost." And lost the UNC did in 2020. And I tried even harder to remove her, even risking personal violence to myself in January 2023, when hired goons at a party national executive meeting attempted to assault a pundit who was calling for Kamla to step down. In 2024, I gave it one last shot with Rushton Parry, Anita Haynes, Dinesh Rambali, Rai Ragbir, Rodney Charles, and the rest of our team. And all of you know how that went. I tell you all of this so that you would recall the facts and appreciate the fact that Lalla didn't just roll off his bed one morning and decide he was going to jump ship and support the PNM. It is the culmination of years of putting my name, professional reputation, time, effort into an attempt to get the UNC to become a better and more appealing version of itself. Similar to what Dr. Rowley has been able to achieve with the PNM. And having given 9 years of my life to attempting to get that party to change, I can safely say with a clear conscience, they're hopeless. And change is impossible in that party, having regard to the control which the failed leader Kamla has over the party. At that time, it came evident to me that I had to look for a better party, the best party, to attempt to make a contribution in the politics to our national development. In making my efforts, at no time did I make political enemies, because my personal belief is that while we occupy these small pieces of land called Trinidad and Tobago, we could be opponents, but we must never be enemies. And while at all times I voice opposition to various proposals and policies of the PNM government, at no time did I say anything disrespectful to the PNM as a party or its supporters, for I had respect for both. And while in making my efforts, persons like my dear friends Faris Al-Rawi, Senior Counsel, Richie Sukai, my colleague Karim Marcel, my other colleague Marvin Gonzalez, Esmond Ford, and my sister Renuka Sagram Singh Suklal, just to name a few, would encourage me to come over to the PNM. And why should I not come to the PNM? Because of race? I saw my colleague Israel Khan, Senior Counsel, when he isn't destroying the CJ's photograph, writing in the newspaper, saying that in Trinidad and Tobago, politics is either PNM till a dead or Apanjat. I want to tell him tonight that is no longer the case, Israel. The young people, no pun intended, of this country don't want to hear about race. They want a serious, stable party of capable patriots with serious intentions with serious intentions to run this country for the benefit of all of us. And the PNM is such a party. Sometime recently at a UNC meeting, I saw their candidate for Tunapuna, that Alexander fella, standing on a stage making a papi show saying, I am here. Well, I say to you tonight, PNM, I am here. And Esmond, seeing that Alexander fella and his activities in the public space and hearing about his activities, I think the PNM got a better deal. Why should I remain politically kidnapped and voiceless in a failed party with a failed leader because of race? Well, I'm sorry for those who think so, because I don't intend to do so. My brothers and sisters, I do not intend to do so. So enough about me and explaining my position. Let us move on to something else. My message to the nation and to all reasonable, decent people of our nation is do not take chain up. Remember the words of Basdeo Pandey. That thing called the UNC is not the party he founded. And if that entity posing as the UNC wins, you, Trinidad and Tobago, would lose. Do you want to lose Trinidad and Tobago? Why do I say that? Well, look at the party in the lead up to nomination day yesterday. For 5 years, Kamla's constant refrain in Dr. Rowley's ears, call the election, call the election, call the election. Well, when the Prime Minister finally took her on and called the election, what happened? She was totally unprepared. They had to miss the ABC's dry run for candidates because they did not have all their candidates and only identify their candidates at the last minute on Thursday, nomination being Friday. And who are the persons on their slate or persons with an interest in their slate who speak for the party? Philip Edward Alexander, Roger, Anil Roberts. You expect them fellas to run this country? I saw Anil in a video yesterday. He was vexed. He was vexed. I was supporting the PNM candidates who submitted their nomination papers yesterday. And he called me a, I don't want to say the word, out of respect to the woman in the audience, right? But Doug, the man, called me a feline. He used the C word. Tonight I want to tell Anil Roberts, what you say about me is irrelevant because my back is broad and thick. What I know you cannot say about me, what I know you cannot say about me is that I am a thief, I just lie, or the police looking for me. So say what you want about me. Another UNC writer, a prolific writer on WhatsApp who is a bowler of intellectually perverse and nonsensical writing pieces, in an attempt to insult me and shut me up, made fun of my beautiful black skin. At 55, I have no wrinkles. Huh? And he referred to me as a tar baby SC. Well, I want to tell him, I want to remind him what my late RG, my grandmother, look, my uncle sitting there, the mayor of Barima, Mr. Baliram Maharaj. What my RG used to say about me, she used to say, he might be dark, but he have education and training. But Kamala seriously expects to run the country with those individuals involved in our party. And talking about individuals, David Lee has been charged with perhaps the most serious offense a member of parliament can be charged with: misbehavior in public office and conspiracy to defraud. Why? Because he allegedly used his vehicle privilege, by which MPs are allowed to import cars tax-free, to bring a Mercedes G-Wagon, perhaps the most expensive Mercedes one can buy, not for himself, but for another person. He therefore allegedly used his parliamentary benefits to defraud you, the taxpayer. Imagine a man charged for that while in opposition. What would happen if, God forbids, he finds himself in government? And that was the kind of man that Kamala had as the UNC's chief whip for years. And now she removed him from Pointe-a-Pierre or Claxton Bay, a marginal seat, and put him in a safe seat, Carrie Central, Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago. What does Kamala's putting of a man on such charges in a safe seat tell you about her governance intention for this country? I am telling you, if this entity called the UNC wins, you would lose. If the UNC wins, you will lose. Imagine she removed Barry Padarat from Princestown, and the people there say they're happy to get rid of him. And she booted Indar Singh, who people seem to like, and put Barry in Cuba South. What is so special about Barry? Apart from carrying your handbag, what special qualifications does he have? Why is Barry so important to her? Is he the person she is grooming to be the leader? Is that the type of person you want to lead this country? Now, having led the UNC for the past 15 years, 5 of which was while she was Prime Minister, the UNC still does not have a home because the party's finances have been badly managed, or no attention has been paid to managing the party's finances. And the party has been knocking from pillar to post, renting here, there, and everywhere. But having so led and mismanaged the UNC, Mrs. Prasad Bissessa is now running an election campaign, promising you, the citizens of this country, the moon and the stars, saying when the UNC wins, you win. And she is doing so. She has the audacity, the gumption to do so, while not telling you one solid plan that she has to raise a huge amount of money that will be required to pay for the moon and the stars that she is promising you. But I want to ask her here tonight, Madam, if you cannot manage the finances of your own party, how can you be trusted with the treasury of this country? In the difficult global economic times in which we exist, can she be trusted to run your country? Mrs. Prasad Bissessa is being highly irresponsible and even dishonest in the promises she has made to you. Just this past week, in a piece carried in the Guardian newspaper entitled, "Economists Question Feasibility of Opposition's 10% Wage Increase," 3 of our noted economists and experts have reportedly said that her promises are like an empty cardboard box. Former Finance Minister Mariano Brown said of her promises, quote, "This would be akin to spending your money before you have received it, which is not a very practical or sensible thing to do. It is an attempt to win favor with the electorate. I guess when you're in her position, you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar." Are you flies? Are you flies, Trinidad and Tobago? Trinidad and Tobago, I'm warning you tonight, do not be fooled. Don't be flies. because what Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is selling is not honey. In fact, Prime Minister Young explained in San Fernando on Wednesday, what she is trying to sell you is a bag of poison that will send us off an economic precipice straight into the hands of the IMF. Dr. Indira Sejuan in the same article said that the 10% wage increase figure stated by that PSA president who finds herself on the UNC platform was unrealistic and premature. Dr. Marlene Atz also criticized the 10% figure and warned, and quote, warned that while politically appealing, the proposal is risky given Trinidad and Tobago's financial constraints, particularly our declining energy revenues. And on Thursday in The Guardian, noted business writer Anthony Wilson, in a piece entitled, quote, "Can TNT afford Kamla's promises?" End of quote, stated, quote, "The cost of funding 7 of the main promises, commitments by Kamla Prasad Bisesa, the political leader of the UNC, during the 2025 general election campaign could mean more than $18 billion in additional expenditure revenue foregone, according to Business Guardian calculations based on publicly verifiable information and verified by senior economists. He also stated the UNC's leaders' emphasis on straight talk and telling the truth to her followers is crucial, because from where I sit, there is absolutely no way, short of a miracle, that a TNT government led by Kamla Prasad Bisesa is going to be able to deliver the promises and commitments that will cost TNT an estimated $18 billion in additional expenditure revenue foregone, end of quote. So Trinidad and Tobago, don't be fooled by Prasad Bisesa's bag of tricks, because if this entity wins, you lose. If Kamla, Barry, Khadija, Alexander win, you lose. Are you going to lose? I want to touch briefly on her health. In relation to the thought of Kamla running the country, there's a very serious concern, her health. And I don't want to be disrespectful, but running a country like Trinidad and Tobago is serious business and requires a lot of time and energy from its Prime Minister. We have all seen the videos of her and her inability to walk without assistance. It is clear that she is not well and that her health might be failing. And I believe there's another issue. We all saw the Eid video where she attended the Eid function and saw it fit to disrespect that function by announcing Barry's constituency. And we all saw the video and how she spoke. And we all heard how her speech sounded and how she fumbled. It is either she was very unwell or that she was inebriated, neither of which is good for the country should she become Prime Minister. And we have all heard the first-hand stories from persons who were close to her in the period 2010 to 2015. We have heard the stories about her work ethic and discipline or lack thereof, about the 4-day weekends and not getting to the office of Prime Minister until the afternoon hours. If the lady was like that 10 years ago, can you imagine what would happen now? You know, when Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is walking into a meeting, they have the habit of playing Blacks, the late Blacks' soca hit, I Feel Like Hulk. Somebody should tell them they are fooling nobody. Mrs. Prasad Bisesa is no Hulk. Perhaps a better tune to play would be that 1970s song by Frank Sinatra, also sung by Barbara Streisand and Judy Collins. You know what's the name of the song? Sending the Clowns. And then there's the question. And then there's the question of if we should put God out of our thoughts and allow that entity calling itself the UNC to win, and something should happen to Kamala in office, who will become Prime Minister. Who on that slate is qualified, experienced, and trusted enough by you to be Prime Minister? Barry? David Lee? Khadija? Tanku? Take your pick. Decent citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, I stand here to ask you to be responsible on April 28th. There is no way that you can be satisfied that that entity called the UNC and that pickup side of degenerates that Prasad Biswas has put together can be trusted to run your affairs for the next 5 years. She has put together that slate of persons loyal to her, removing good, solid people like Rushton and poor Anita, so that when she loses, she could remain as opposition leader till death. Well, I plead with you tonight to grant her her wish and make her the opposition leader on April 28th. PNM family, are you going to make her opposition leader on April 28th? Now, in contrast to the failed, ill, weak leader with highly questionable judgment who leads the entity they call the UNC, we have the young, the pun intended, bright, energetic, accomplished, hardworking, result-driven, and patriotic son of the soil in Stuart Richard Young, SC. And he is all in for Trinidad and Tobago. Are we all in for Trinidad and Tobago? Decent citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, I want you to consider what the Prime Minister has done for our beloved country. For so long, the opposition, all they could do is ill-speak the Dragon Gas project and wish for it to fail, and that the Prime Minister's work on the project would result in sanctions against him, against the country, seize of his assets, the assets of Dr. Rowley, etc. Despite that, and no doubt at great risk to himself and his family, Prime Minister Young was able to maneuver difficult international, political, diplomatic, legal, and other issues to bring us to where we are on the Dragon Gas project. To the point that though there was a change in administration in the USA, he was still invited to bilateral talks with the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who assured us that the US is concerned with our energy security and will do nothing to harm our interests. Think of that. Ladies and gentlemen, very few, if any politician, would have been brave enough, with the eyes of the United States on them, to do what our Prime Minister was able to do, to go into Venezuela and bring that cross-border project between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela to where it has reached. I saw a newspaper story recently where Shell has stated that all things being equal, first gas on the project could be in 2026. And that is not the only project he has been actively working on for our country with his portfolio as Minister of Energy. As we have seen, and I'm sure he would speak about, there are other gas projects that are coming on stream very shortly. that will have that scarce foreign exchange flowing into our treasury, making it better for all of us. Trinidad and Tobago, particularly our young people, that is the leadership we need at this time in our history. If Stuart Richard Young Senior Counsel has been so successful with his portfolio as Minister of Energy, imagine what he could do for you in the office of the Prime Minister now. Now I know that the last 9 years have been difficult in our country in several ways. Even I have criticized and complained at times about those difficulties. But we have to be honest with ourselves. Times have been difficult because our country over those years, the last 9 years, has not been earning the type of foreign exchange that we earned in the years 2020 to 2015. So to a great extent, it is unfair to compare the state of our financial happiness and comfort over those 9 years to the years 2010 to 2015, when the UNC was in power. But the signs are clear that that is about to change, largely because of the work that the Prime Minister and other persons like Dr. Rowley and Minister Brown have been doing for our country. Ladies and gentlemen, the ship of state is steady. It has sailed through rough waters, but it is steady. And steady as she goes, from what we are seeing on the horizon, things will get more manageable for all of us soon. But now is not the time to change. Now is not the time to change captain and crew, for like the Titanic, we will hit an iceberg, the IMF, with devastating consequences if we listen to Kamala Persad-Bissessar and her nonsense. We need to allow Prime Minister Young to bring his energy, experience, work discipline, and result-driven focus to bear on our immediate future in the office of Prime Minister. With his full team of 41 PNM candidates, so that he may complete and allow us to see the fruits of the work in which he is involved. So in 3 weeks' time, PNM, who are we voting for? Almost finished, huh? Before I close, I must, as a Tunapuna boy, say something about our candidate for Tunapuna. I campaigned against Esmond in 2015, but I have come to like and respect Esmond. Why? Like me, he's a past student of Hillview College, but it is not simply that. All of Tunapuna know that Esmond is one of the most genuine, down-to-earth, fair, caring, hard-working members of Parliament that anyone could wish for. You know that popular sitcom on television, Everybody Loves Raymond? Well, in Tunapuna, everybody loves Esmond. You won't see Esmond on TV or in the news much, but in Tunapuna, you will see him on every street, at every wedding, christening, puja. I like what they do with the horn up there. Church service, mosque service, sports day, anything taking place in Tunapuna is one day. I remember that even when my RG, my grandmother, died a couple of years ago at age 99, Esmond attended and spoke at her funeral. And she lives across the main road, which falls in the constituency of St. Augustine. The man was even campaigning in St. Augustine. Edmund is so loved and respected. He could beat both Alexander and Khadijah at the same time. But don't worry, our warrior sister, Renuka, is going to deal with Khadijah. And she will deal with Zambo too. Apart from his work as a member of parliament, all of us have seen him perform his duties as Deputy Speaker of the House. And he has been fair to both sides at all times, and I challenge anyone to say otherwise. He is not a man to abuse his authority, unlike his opponent, as we have all seen in that video with him and Ian Allen. So as a Tunapuna boy, born, bred, and educated, I have no hesitation in endorsing my dear brother Esmond Ford. Tunapuna, are we on board with Ford? I can't hear you. Tunapuna, are we on board with Ford? And there's just one last thing for me to say. On the night of April 28th, when all is counted and reported, we will stand in solidarity as citizens of this beautiful country and say, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, great is the PNM, and we shall prevail.